Baseball's a better game when he's in it. And Bruce Bochy, there you see him, the new manager of the Texas Rangers, a 3-year contract after being away from the game for 3 years. Bochy, it's great to see you back. Let me ask you this. When you left the Giants, you know, whether it was health-related or it was time for a change, whatever the case might be, did you think I know you wanted to, but with the age of analytics and a young manager and inexperience, did you think you'd get another opportunity?
You know, it's a great question, Chris. I didn't know, and I was ready to step back at that time. I felt it was the right time. I was there 13 years, and it was a great run. Farhan had just taken over, and I felt like, he should, be able to pick his guy. And so I wanted to take that off his plate. But, I just didn't know. And first year, I thought, wow, what a great move I made, because you had the COVID situation in 2020. I didn't want to be part of that for sure. And but as time went, I was getting the itch, and I said I would listen. Well, see why he called. And I listened, and the more I listened, the more excited I got, more fired up I got. And here I am. And I couldn't be more excited, more ecstatic. It's just it couldn't have worked out better, really. I enjoyed my time off. I'll be honest. I got to work my golf game. It didn't get much better, and did some things that I had missing. But it was time to get back in the game.
A lot of deep sea fishing for our little pal here, I can promise you that. Did anybody, Buck had success with the Mets? Obviously, we know that Dusty's in a World Series. He's 73. Snitker won last year. Like to see it. A little bit more of a trend now to the older manager with experience. That probably was a good sign for you, Boch. Let me hear your thoughts on that. Go ahead.
You know what? It really was. I did... look at their success, and as much as that, it made me wonder if I'm retiring too early. So a lot was going through my head as I was watching these guys have success, and you're right. I think it's in some areas with some teams it has gone back a little bit. And believe me, I think it's a useful tool. I'm talking about analytics, but I just don't think stats or data, can drive every decision on the field. I do think you have to trust your eyes and use your instincts at times, because things change during the course of a game, how players develop or plays, things like that. So, I'll be blending both, but at the same time, you got to do what you're used to doing.
All right, 3 years away, and you don't know Texas that well. The players, I know you know Seager, but, not all the players you know that well. You're in a different league, different division. How long, one spring training? How long is it going to take to get really sort of acclimated with what you have to work with in 2023?
Yeah, you know what, Mad Dog, it starts now. I know I'm in a different division. I want to get all the information I can. I know how good Houston is, how good Seattle is. You look at California, they're going to be better. I know that, and including Oakland. So, I'm working on it now. Spring training. Sure, you're going to get more of a feel, but it's going to be important that I get a better feel for them before the season than during the season. But it's a tough division, and I knew that coming in. Trust me, I looked at everything, but I also looked at this club, and we got a great core of players. Marcus, Corey, and gosh, you look at Lowe, the year he had, and we got some work to do. I mentioned that in the press conference. I understand that, but I'm all in, and we have a leadership group here, CY and Ray Davis. They want to get back. It's been a while for them, so they feel that the fire's for me to get back on the field.
I know you got a lot of red wine, which will get you through it. But, boy, next year with the travel and where Houston is, you got tough travel for the division anyway with the 3 West Coast teams. But you're going to be playing everybody in a National League, too. And Houston is sort of an outpost. A lot of plane rides for Bruce Bochy. Was that a little determined? Did you think about that as far as making this decision is concerned?
I did. The one thing I enjoyed in this game was the travel. I really did. That's not going to bother me. Sure, you're going to have a few trips now and then where you're getting in, wee hours in the morning. But it's a case where I know I got to take better care of myself. You're younger, you can stay up and do some things. But now my focus is to take care of myself, focus on this team. Not that it always wasn't there, but you have to be aware of that. That's just a fact. And and I'll talk to Dusty and I'll talk to Buck and get some thoughts from them too.
Interesting. All right. I'm sure you talked to your doctors. I know you had a few little health issues, nothing major. At the end of the day with the Giants, they're okay with this. I know your family's okay with it. Doctor's okay with it too. Bruce, how about that for a sec? Let me hear.
Yeah, all good there. If there was any concern at all, I wouldn't be here. I promise you that. And I assured, of course, my family, we did check that box off, and that was an important box, And I said my wife probably took a little bit more convincing because, I think she was enjoying the retired life. But, when she knew Chris Young, but when she met, the rest of the group, Ray Davis, she started getting excited about it too. And she was here today, and an amazing, woman that I appreciate very much has let me do what I love to do. And you know what? Part of it, Chris, you don't want to let the old man in. I couldn't just sit there on the recliner all day. And I was out. I have a pond in my backyard. I think I caught the same bass 10 times. And finally, he looked at me. And he looks at me and goes, dude, you got to get a job, man. This is getting old.
Now, here's another thing that La Russa didn't worry about when he came back to the White Sox. I just thought of it. You and I both know, I know you're going to be nonplussed about it, which drives me crazy. You're a Hall of Famer. You got the 3 championships, and this now delays your Hall of Fame scenario at Cooperstown. They're not going to put you in when you're manager again. I know you probably didn't think about that. Did you think about it since you got this job? Let me hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did not think about it. I never assumed that, that's going to be something that's going to happen either. I'm not doing the humble thing. I'm just being honest. And but probably the most important thing for me is to do what I wanted to do now, and not something what I'm thinking about or I want to see if that's going to happen. I want to get back on the field again. It was the passion, the drive to get back. Watching you, I miss you. How about that?
Oh yeah, I love you, Bruce. Now you signed a 3-year deal. Now I know, listen, you're 67, 68. So you're not going to sign a 10-year deal. Can Texas win from what you've seen of the team and the farm system and what the owner is going to spend on money, need some pitching? Can the Rangers win within this confines of your 3-year contract?
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that was a possibility. I really like the potential of this club. I mean, they're core players. I mean, you look at their infield. Tremendous players. Lowe came into his own, of course, Marcus and Corey, and a young third baseman, Young. And so their system's deep. But more importantly is the vision that C.Y. Chris Young had. He lives here. And trust me, nobody wants to find a way to get the Rangers back to winning baseball for their fans. And talking to Mr. Davis, he feels the same, had the same vision. And, these guys haven't been back in a while. And they're hungry. I mean, they're tired of losing and not seeing the postseason. So that's what enticed me even more, the fact that they're ready to, to make a transformation and find a way to get back there.
All right, a lot of rule changes for next year, Bruce. Shift, the pitch clock. Are you comfortable with most of those?
Yeah, good question. Something I got to get comfortable with, and something I'll be looking at, studying. It's funny. We've gotten so smart. We've done so many things to the game. We had to make rules to change the game, and the bases and everything. So my job is not to decide whether I like them or not. It's to make them work, and so I'll be looking at all the different rules and maybe things that we can do to help the players, their needs there, but also for a coaching staff that we need to know. And I know this has happened since I stepped down. So trust me, I'll be studying up on them.
All right, last thing, Phillies or Astros? I'm not going to let you get away with it. I want to hear a prediction. Who and why? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. Right before he came on, I know he's going to ask me my prediction, and I got some good friends on both teams, man. I know you hate somebody sitting on the fence there. I think you do have to look at Houston and what they just did to New York and the pitching, whatever. But That Philly team, man, that team reminds me of a couple of our teams in San Francisco, man. They're just not being denied. And I think it's going to be a great playoffs. I really do. And so if I picked a winner, then I'd have somebody on the other club calling me.
Yeah,
Really?
I'll let you go. I'll let you go to I'm thinking about your first trip to Washington in the upper deck in 1966. The old man thinking about that today, an Army guy as he was, Bruce? How about that for a sec? Go ahead.
What a great memory you have. Yeah, that's what inspired me to get in this game was RFK. And, it's funny. This team is where it came, and I was crushed when they moved from Washington. And
oh, really?
Here they are.
Wow.
And you talking about full circle, the team that inspired me to play baseball, and now I'm managing that same team that was there.
Wow, fascinating. Bruce, we'll check in throughout the year. Don't disappear now. Always a pleasure to talk. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Always good talking with you.
Take care, Bruce Bochy, the new manager of the Texas Rangers. That's a great story.